marks 1 week since gunfire erupted at the Bite of Seattle festival, killing 3 people and injuring 4 others. A 15-year-old was taken into custody and is facing a series of charges. Police say the 19-year-old man that died was also involved. Officers are still looking for a 3rd suspect as of this morning. And the city of Seattle is paying out more than $500,000 in the resignation agreement with now former police chief Sean Barnes. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson says the request for Barnes to resign was mounting for some time prior to the tragic shooting. Wilson named an interim chief, Andre Sales. Here with us this morning right now to talk about what this means for the Wilson administration going forward is former Washington State Senator and King 5 political analyst Reuven Carlyle. Reuven, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Well, Reuven, let's start out with this. What does a police chief shakeup mean for the mayor's reputation and ability to govern going forward?
I think we can all appreciate that it's a brand new administration. It's only 7 months old. She won her election by 2,000 votes. It was very close. And in many ways, she's really still introducing herself to the public. So this is very jolting. And it's very jolting because the city council is upset. Community leaders, civic leaders are upset. It's really resonated deeply with the public because 3 people are dead. And it was really at the heart and soul of a Seattle civic event. And so ultimately, I think it has a deep impact politically. It's sort of a tipping point moment where it really is defining her as a person, as a leader, and it has profound implications.
Yeah, so early on as in a term, well before you even start thinking about re-election processes, for sure. Could this move be seen as decisive leadership or potentially as scapegoating?
There's no question that leaders in the African-American community, leaders on the city council have used the word scapegoating. There's just a deep sense of discomfort, of course, because it was done so quickly. But more than that, I think we still have an active investigation underway. There's a lot of questions. But ultimately, I think people know intuitively that every mayor and every governor, the very first day of office, you get a briefing on public safety, you figure out the policies and the procedures. It seems like that didn't happen with her. And if it did happen, that perhaps she didn't take it seriously. It really is the job. It's an operational job, it's an administrative job, and running the public safety decisions relative to a major event like an earthquake or a shooting is the obligation. So I think people are jolted because of that.
Now, how might this affect the mayor's approval ratings and re-election prospects?
Well, Seattle has a long history of turning out mayors after one term. It sort of seems like this is a defining event that could have that kind of effect, and so it's hard to know, but it's incredibly unusual this early to have a majority of the city council be so exacerbated by their concerns and to use such strong language of reservation. So there's a real challenge here, and she's had substantial turnover in her staff, and so that doesn't instill confidence. So there's no question it's a very bumpy period of time for her, to say nothing of the seriousness for the community in a mass shooting.
Well, Reuven, let's switch gears since we have you here so close to Election Day. It's on Tuesday. Are there any local races Washingtonians should be paying attention to, even if it's outside of their district? And why would you tell them to pay attention?
Yeah, it is a big election. I mean, primary in August, we have, of course, mail-in ballots, so we still get probably about 40% turnout is still projected. There are races. State Senator Jamie Peterson, the majority leader, represents a Seattle district, first majority leader in 50 years from Seattle, is being challenged from the progressive far left. Mayor Wilson has actually endorsed the opponent, and that's extremely unprecedented, unusual. So that's one to watch. Of course, down in the 3rd congressional district, the biggest race is Representative Congresswoman Marie Gutierrez-Perez, challenged by State Senator John Braun, widely respected. He's been endorsed by Trump. It is a Trump district. At the same time, she's maintained that district for two terms. Very, very interesting where that's going nationally. And then, of course, there's state Supreme Court races. We have 4 on the ballot, unprecedented to have that many. And the Republicans have prioritized that as a category they want to try to do better in.
And speaking of nationally, when it comes to midterms, are you seeing a clear wave forming, or does it look like we have more mixed split outcomes?
Of course, it's hard to project, but ultimately there's sort of an ideological battle happening within the Democratic Party. In Michigan, you have a U.S. Senate race, which is a far left progressive against a more traditional moderate Democrat, and I think the results of that will set the stage for a very tough race in November with the Republicans. So that's sort of a symbolic representation of this ideological divide that we're seeing around the country.
All right, finally, Reuven, what do you believe are the key 2 to 3 issues motivating voters right now?
There's no question that it's affordability. And that affordability issue, it touches on housing and homelessness and health care and education, but it also touches on the Trump brand and the impact of whether the Trump brand will continue, and the war in Iran, I mean, at the national level. So it's playing out at the local, the state, and the federal level.
All right, our former state senator, Reuven Carlyle, and our King 5 political analyst, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.